All right, welcome back, everybody. My name is Broxton Davis. I'm a performance media analyst at one of the top advertising agencies in the world, as well as the host of the BroxtenDigital Show, which is my podcast where I bring on some of marketing and advertising's brightest minds and interview them in the sense of giving students and young professionals in the industry the best advice and insights they could possibly get to just, leverage them and move themselves forward early in their career. I'm also joined today for episode 4 of our mini series by Gabby Matos and Isabella Torrado, two recent graduates from Michigan State who I think are just killing it in the advertising world. Gabby has founded her own agency called Slate Social. Gabby works with, or Isabella works with Gabby quite a bit and also does some other things outside of Slate Social. So just two Spartan grads who are out there killing it. So we're just here to kind of break down some of the stuff, kind of like we have in the past 3 episodes that we've spent the last little bit figuring out and are now using in our day to day to just, succeed and try to move ourselves forward. But with that today, this is going to be episode 4, and it's actually going to kind of build off of episode 3 that we just did, where we talked about, ROI, ROAS, and just how important that is, and how you can kind of explain that to business owners and really, prove that you're providing value with what you're doing in marketing and advertising. But today we're going to get a little bit more specific and talk about how Gen Z can actually take these skills and use them to make money for themselves, not just money for your clients, but kind of like Gabby and Isabel said at the end of the last episode, like at the end of the day, you either, you're running a business or working for a business where you're trying to make your paycheck to pay for your life. So like there's that aspect of it too. And it can be pretty intimidating. You come out of college where you didn't have to have that. You weren't super reliant on a, large scale salary, whether, you had tuition dollars, different things that were supporting you there, your parents, it's a totally different world once you get out of college and just kind of have to figure things out. So we're going to break down here, how exactly, as somebody who is either looking to break in or just kind of starting out in their career in marketing and advertising, what skills you should be focusing on depending on what you want to do and how you can use them to actually get some cash in your pocket at the end of the day. So we'll kind of get started on, just going over kind of my side like we did in the last episode. So from the large agency performance media perspective, one thing I am really big on is that the performance media aspect in the big agency builds an amazing backbone to kind of go and do anything else in marketing or advertising. Paid media and performance media are kind of the baselines of being able to drive revenue. And if times ever get tight or if budgets are getting cut, that's what you need to be able to do, is help your client make money. So if you can go do that, that's kind of your baseline and you can go out and expand from that. But as far as the skills that make you valuable there, that I think have helped me move up in the agency world and just, help me make connections and feel like I'm moving myself forward and getting my name recognized by people who normally wouldn't if I was just doing my day-to-day work, is one, just being innovative. That's something that I've really just taken as like one of my North Stars as far as like what I want to do on a day to day. And, that doesn't always mean reinventing the wheel or coming up with a new way that we're going to run our ads. It can be as simple as, here's a setting we're not running in Google Ads. Let's test running this for 60 days and see if it hurts or helps performance, and then produce a case study for the client. And, you do enough of those and you start having, 2, 3, 4, maybe even 5 different tests that end up working and helping improve performance and improve efficiency. And you can go back and say, hey, like, after I figured these 5 different things out, all said and done, after running with them for a year, we saved the client $100,000 plus in ad spend. That is pretty insane and gets you noticed by people whose job is to keep that client around. So that's just one thing, is obviously being innovative once you get into the agency space. You're dealing with a lot of busy people and they want to see their accounts grow. And, you as somebody who's just starting out can kind of almost come in as an expert and say, this is what I'm seeing and what's happening the most recently. I stay up to date on all the different news on LinkedIn, all the different news out on the internet. And, these are ways we could leverage that and go ahead and make our accounts better. So that'd be one of the big ones. And then another one is just learning how to take data and turn that into action. That's going to be one of the big things you're tasked with, I think, no matter where you're at in the agency, whether you're an account person, a brand person, a performance media person, even creatives. You are going to be looking at data at some point, and you're going to be having to take that data and say, all right, what story is this data saying? And, you might just be giving it to your boss and breaking down, hey, here's where we're at and here's how we can improve off of it. Or, if you're going to a client, there's another step of, I have to take this data, come up with the actionable advice based off of it, and then also find a way to translate it to somebody who isn't a performance media specialist or whatever you're in specialist. So that's another thing, is just being able to take data and, one, turn it into a story, and then 2, also translate it to somebody who maybe doesn't know as much about the specific subject that you're talking about, are both just super important skills. But honestly, I would say anybody job hunting or just early in the agency career, definitely if you're job hunting, focus on getting those applications in. Right now, the industry is just kind of crazy, and I totally get why people might not be looking at the big agency side. I do highly recommend it as a way to get some really good experience and meet a ton of people who are just in the industry and willing to help you. Because I don't know, a lot of people I meet, they see themselves in you. They see, themselves when they were just starting out at the agency and want to help and provide the value that they didn't have. At least a lot of them do. So just a great place to begin your career. And I think in performance media specifically is a great place to build a backbone that allows you to kind of pivot and go, like, I feel like I could confidently move to any other area of marketing and have a baseline idea of what I need to do and how I could provide value there based off of the performance media skills I've gained. With that though, kind of like what I was saying with the crazy industry and the job applications and just all of what goes into being at a big agency, like I would honestly say I feel a little bit lucky having the job that I have, because I know people who have been applying since I graduated last May and still haven't figured something out almost a year later now. And I was able to get something to pop, and I don't think that had anything to do with like a crazy skill set or anything, just kind of worked out. So if it can work out for you, great. But if not, you can go a totally different route. There's so many ways to make money in this awesome industry. So I'm going to flip it over to Gabby and Isabella to kind of talk about the other route you can go, which is saying, you know what, I'm starting my own thing and going to be my own boss. So I would love to kind of hear, one, obviously, let's start out like, how do you just have the guts to say, all right, I'm doing this thing by myself? And then would love to hear you guys kind of just break it down, just like how I kind of did.
Um, okay, yeah. So for me, um, when I originally had the idea of starting my own thing, it was due to a professor at Michigan State. His name is Ross Chowles. If you are in the
He's been on the
entrepreneurship,
show. He's been a guest.
yes.
Yes,
Oh,
he's
yes,
amazing.
yes. He is amazing, amazing, amazing. I owe him part of why, like, the reason I started this. Um, Basically, in his class, you build a brand from scratch, or you take an existing brand and you make it better. Um, so you go through the entire semester, like, building this brand. And going through the steps, I was like, thinking to myself, why don't I just, do this with my own thing? I don't show anybody. It's not like a school project. I want something of my own, and like let me see if I can kind of build it in the background while I attend class and work my other job or whatever. Um, and then it got to the point where like I had this whole brand like completed. I had an internship with another agency in the area. There were some things I liked, some things I didn't, and some things I would change. And then going into senior year, I kind of had this already, up and going a little bit. I didn't have like any clients yet, but I knew what I wanted and I knew what I wanted to get done. Um, and, just reflecting, like, I didn't want to have to, rush to another job fair or, do something that, like, I didn't know much about. I wanted to do, something I'm passionate about. I didn't want to like fit in with the rest of like the grade. Like I didn't, I think there's something very cool about doing your own thing and working really hard to get where you want to be. Um, and that can look different for anybody. You can take this route or you could work your way up through corporate. It genuinely doesn't matter what you do as long as you are happy where you are. And I know a lot of people struggle with that. So, I just, as a founder, I try to make this work environment very comfortable, very fun. Um, yes, we get a lot of work done and we do a lot of hard work, but I think people should be rewarded for that. And I think, in the creative industry, burnout is real. So as long as you can keep things like exciting and fresh, um, you know, that's the route we'd rather go than doing your typical 9 to 5, I guess you could say. So, yeah, that's all I got.
No, I love it. And I guess I'm just curious too. So like I want to get really real with the viewers and listeners here of just like, you can go both routes. There's pros and cons to both, but just like kind of how we broke down what you should really be focusing in on paid media. What would you say on the more entrepreneurial startup side of things? What are maybe a couple of those skills that you really should lock in on before you make that jump?
Before you make that jump, I would say, just know, like, you got to do your research before you jump into anything, like, business related. Like, you got to know the tax end of things. So find a tax advisor, look up some YouTube videos, do your research. Don't just read Wikipedia, or ask AI to tell you, because they can be wrong. So make sure you really know the legal side of things. Then, as for like a specific skill set, be proficient in AI. Know how to utilize Canva or Adobe. Um, understand how to do CapCut edits, that kind of thing. Understand the ins and outs of every social media platform. I think that is the most important, because if you have a client that is going to come to you and say, hey, I want you to schedule out my LinkedIn posts, and you've never been on LinkedIn in your life, then you're going to struggle, and you might not be as prepared as you thought you were, So just, learning the ins and outs of the, the apps that you are going to be using every single day, figuring out like the workflow. How are you going to onboard people? How are you going to have people pay you? It's really like a full-time position. Like, you will be working 24/7. But then life gets really great, and you get an amazing team, and your skill set is up to par, and you can find people that are better than you at that skill eventually. That would be my advice if you're looking for the more founder route. But I'll give it to Bella to talk about kind of the skill set for somebody interested in content creation and social media world.
Yeah, I think for me personally, in kind of the entrepreneurial world and that space too, I definitely had an interest in it. I actually also took Ross's class separately, so it's funny that he also kind of, I guess, guided me to this world. But I took that class, and first and foremost, I felt something resonate with me. Like, I really noticed, like, I'm really called to this. I think about it a lot. Like, why am I thinking about it so much? And kind of just let me to think, like, okay, there has to be something here. Like, there has to be something there that there's a reason why it's, I guess, speaking to me so much. And with that being said, I think as people, and as you debate on what journey is next for you, or where maybe what's your direction, I think it's important to take a lot of time to think about and like really just feel. At least for me, I'm big on like feeling, and what do I feel when I do X, Y, and Z. So taking the time to assess what do I feel when I do X, Y, and Z, and maybe chasing the direction of the feeling that made you feel that way could be good guidance. That way you're, again, playing on authenticity. You're eventually going towards something that you feel very authentic and passionate towards. And I think that will ultimately guide you to what was meant to be in all of those fun mindset things. But at least for me, I was interested in it. I was thinking about it all the time. And as I mentioned in the first episode, I met Gabby in almost a way that to me felt like kind of fate. We were in the right place at the right time. She offered an opportunity, which is that she was a founder of a business and was looking for some help. I saw this as an opportunity, and I think I recognized it was an opportunity because I had taken the time to assess what does resonate with me, what does speak to me, and it just felt like, okay, this is an opportunity. And I really played into action, and I think action is a huge component to maybe taking an entrepreneurial route. It's, I have to do it now, or maybe I'm going to miss the opportunity, or if I delay, if I make up potential excuses, or if I'm too afraid, then it's gonna pass. And if I would have not jumped on that opportunity that day, I wouldn't most likely be sitting here in this car with Gabby talking. I wouldn't have learned or exercised as many skills as I have, and I have really gotten an inside scoop into the entrepreneurial space, which has been very beneficial for me, and just mainly to have that mindset. I think the mindset is like a fundamental mindset to have. It just exercises all of your interpersonal foundational traits: discipline, motivation, teamwork, etc. So
Yeah, I love
that.
that.
Yes, great advice from both of you there. I think like whether you're looking to work at a big agency, be a founder, or get into content creation, this is pretty much the playbook if you go back and watch the last 14 minutes here. So that was super awesome. And one thing you mentioned this, Gabby, that I wanted to just kind of end on was that one big thing that our generation has that no generation has had before is that if you can just hop on Claude or hop on Gemini and start taking the stuff we're saying and, using those tools to, 5x 10x the speed you're able to learn, or even able to start producing content or producing plans, you can get pretty dangerous and get a business up and running with just some back and forth with Claude. So I think using those AI tools and using what's out there technologically just gives us a huge advantage to be able to do any of those three things I just mentioned at a much faster speed than anybody previously. If somebody wanted to be a content creator back 15 years ago, a ton of research and strategy and planning had to go into that. I mean, now you can whip up a content strategy with Claude, grab your phone and start recording, and you're off to the races. So super cool and just some great advice. Was there anything else you guys wanted to round out on here?
Yeah, I mean, for my last piece of advice, I would say don't cut yourself short. You're not the smartest person in the room. You never want to be the smartest person in the room. You will always want to learn more. There's so much knowledge out there that it's almost like incapable of learning everything. But what you can do, Google and Meta have some really cool free courses. So before you even start thinking about getting into this, take a couple of those. You can post them on your LinkedIn when you're done. Gives you some more experience under your belt. They're looked at as like certifications, but really good base knowledge for like kind of the gist of what we do, to test yourself if that's something that you'd be interested in. But that's what I have to say. I know Bella has something to share.
Oh yeah. Also for Slate and Social, we are looking for new hiring. Sorry, for Slate and Social, we are hiring, and we're looking for new interns, specifically people looking for experience in graphic design and photo editing. So we're looking for a lot of Canva users and Adobe expertise. So we'd love to talk. Send us a DM at Slate and Social on Instagram, and yeah, it's always a great way to gain more experience and get your hands in the space and just expanding knowledge and skill set. So if you're looking for some more experience, we are offering that opportunity, which is super exciting.
Yeah.
That is super cool. Yeah, we spent the whole episode talking about how Gen Z people can go out and start making some money in marketing and advertising. I think interning at Slate and Social would probably be a great spot to start. One, I guess, real quick before we hop off here, is it full remote or what kind of is just the details, just in case anybody is really interested?
Ideally, based in or around Metro Detroit / Ann Arbor, Michigan. Ideally, if not, we could make a remote position work. We're looking for like 1 to 2 people, primarily. So any portfolios, send to our Instagram or our email, slateandsocial@gmail.com. Everything should be linked below.
Awesome.
But yeah.
Well, sweet, free little gift for everybody who made it to the end of the episode here. Go ahead and get in touch with the Slate and Social ladies. They got some awesome stuff going on over there, and would be an awesome opportunity to say you got to work with the founding team there. So that's awesome, and I think that wraps what we had for episode 4. We'll see you guys in episode 5.